Welcome, everybody. Today's topic is all about juggling parenting and work and the values behind those. And for this episode, it's just going to be myself, Allie, and Christina. Corrine is away, which is actually great because I've been meaning to do sort of like parenting interviews of a sort with both Christina and Corrine. And we've been talking about incorporating values-based parenting into our VBL stuff for a while. And this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And I think we're going to do a video version of this because there's a little baby in the background. Actually, Christina, do you want to say why there's a baby in the background? Speaking of how trying to do things while you have kids is very special.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can hear, I have a very happy 9-month-old behind me. His name is Mateus. Yeah, my husband was actually got stuck today in the snow, and so talk about juggling. This is the perfect podcast to have this happen. That now I'm juggling my kids, and so he's our special guest today.
He's our special guest, and at some point Dad is going to come by and snag him, but we're going to get adorable baby footage at the beginning before that happens.
Yeah.
And it'll be distracting in the best way ever because he just keeps staring at you, Mom, like checking in. Hi, Mom. Okay, so I just wanted to say we were doing a bit of talking before this because, like, the sense I'm getting as someone with no kids is parenting is life, especially when they're tiny. And I was thinking about I just want to say how many times I talk to a mom. It seems to be moms, although I'm sure there's dads in this same situation out there. How often I talk to moms and I'm just in awe. I'm just completely flabbergasted by the number of things going on. And also there's just an acceptance too. Like you were just saying, yeah, I just had 2 illnesses in a row and I'm getting over the second one. And yeah, here I am. And we're working right now by recording this podcast, and there's a baby there, and the baby was supposed to be there was supposed to be a babysitter, but now the baby's there, and you're just yeah, and we're just rolling with it. You just have this sense of calm, and I'm just wow, okay, sounds like a lot of things.
Yes.
And you're just yeah, that's life right now. Okay.
Yeah, it honestly is a juggling act. And parenting is definitely life. Your world essentially revolves around your littles. And, no matter how much pre-planning went in, like tonight we had a babysitter. My husband went to go get her early, didn't expect to get stuck really badly in the ditch. And, now here we are with, myself doing this podcast with you and having our littles here, and luckily he's going to be coming, but at the same time you just gotta put the kids first and roll with it.
And the first question was supposed to be so how does this topic of parenting and work relate to your life right now? And I feel it's just super obvious, so we might not even need to go into that, but maybe I'll just say there's more going on than what we even described, because you have another child not in the room, and you have a job that you're going back to in not that much time, right? A full-time job.
That's right. I actually start my job again in a month. But yeah, it's honestly a juggling act. It's trying to achieve balance while juggling your kids, your household, even yourself at some point. As well as your work too. And it's I don't like using the word hard or difficult, because it's not. It's just more mental load to juggle, because you're constantly thinking ahead and trying to plan and make things work. And they don't always work. So you always have to also include a plan B at the same time. So it does become a lot. And that's when, as a parent, you start putting your needs at the very back, because as long as the kids are taken care of and food is on the table and you got a roof over your head, you're winning at that particular point.
So do you think that's the goal to aim for, is like when kids come, the parents' needs come last? Like, is that just the way it needs to be, or is there a way to prioritize both, not wants, but needs, and be able to get both needs met?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it would be different for everybody, but I know for myself, I'm still working towards trying to get that balance, because it's not working by just putting my kids' needs first and the household's needs first, because then I get so burnt out that I end up falling behind, and then you start feeling guilty and all sorts of other negative emotions, and then you get sick like I have, because you're stressed. And realistically, you know, mom, dad, parent, whoever you are very much worth investing in, because you are the one that's running the ship, and you need to be at your best in order to give your best. So yeah, balance is really key, and that's trying to figure out both what's important for yourself as a parent, for your own needs, as well as what your kids' needs are and what is important to them, and trying to meet in the middle there.
Yeah. And we're both talking about needs and wants, but since we're values-based living, let's talk about values too. Because that's got to be just at play all the time. So let's make it like a conscious process. What have you noticed about or learned about your values since you had kids and have been working with the dynamic of not just having kids, but having work responsibilities as well?
Yeah. Well, things evolve. You know, just before even being a parent, you know, I've had two sets of values. I've had my own personal, and then I've had my work values. Well, now, since becoming a parent, I now have three sets of values, because I also have that parent too. So talk about, you know, personality disorders here. You're splitting yourself into so many different people, that now you need to try and focus and establish a balance between all of them, and try and satisfy at least a few of them, on top of figuring out, and this is something that I learned recently and I found really valuable, is that understanding your kids' values, like what's really important to them, to make sure that not only my values as a parent are being met, but their values as a kid is being met as well, because they're very different. So for example, as a parent, I value connection. I value stability, routine. Those are just to name a few. My daughter, who is 4, she values connection. She values fun and silliness and creativity, just to name a few. So now here I am. Okay, I am already splitting myself up with household duties, with parenting duties, with work duties, whether it's VBL or me going actually back to my full-time job. But now it's, okay, I have a child that has these needs or these values. How am I going to make my time that I actually have with them valuable to them? How am I going to satisfy their need for creativity, their need for fun and silliness? And especially when you're working all day, you give your 100% at work, and now you're coming home and you're exhausted, but that little one is counting on you to give your 100% to them. And so that's what I've learned, is you need to try and find a balance and work with them. You know, try things out. You know, like I schedule time to do coloring with her, because right now that's like the thing that she loves doing, or painting. And yes, it might be a little bit more work on me to get everything out and set her up, but you know, that, you know, half hour that I give her, or that hour that I give her, just focus to that piece, it means so much to her. And she remembers that, and that's what she holds dearly. You know, versus, don't get me wrong, she loves TV. That's actually what she's doing right now while I'm in a meeting. But that's not what she's going to remember. You know, it's that quality time.
Yeah, the connection piece. In that example of the coloring, you both are getting your value of connection met. She's getting her value of creativity and fun and silliness maybe met. Is there a way that you've been able to get your values of stability and what was the other one? Schedule? Routine. Is there a way that you've been able to get those met with an example like coloring together?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that example, you know, we come home, we eat supper, and then after supper, that's when we pick an activity to do, right? So as she is well aware of the routine of supper, activity, then it's time to get ready for bed. And it works. Honestly, as long as she knows what the routine is, which, by the way, my daughter is very much type A like me, so she does have that value of routine. As long as she knows that it's coming, she's happy, and she will do whatever it is that needs to be done in order to do it. I'm very blessed that way. But absolutely, in that regard, we are finding a way to make sure that both of our values are met. And the top one, which is that connection, is absolutely being met. And, you know, if I can give any tip to any parent, it would be that if that specific one, or if there's a certain value that is very high for both you and your child, focus in on that. And even if you can give just 20 minutes, half hour, however much time you can give to really satisfy that in a day, it just does wonders for you both. Yeah.
And you've been able to figure out your values, and you've done like the adult version of that. You've obviously, like, we have a gajillion pieces of training on getting to know your values, and you've taken it all and are going to be teaching it, I'm sure, at some point. But how did you get to know Freya's values? She's not necessarily going to read the values inventory and check the boxes, right? That's not necessarily 4-year-old appropriate. So how were you able to figure out what was most important to her, to identify her top values?
Yeah, that's a great question too, Ali. It's actually quite an exciting experiment. So with them, you're right. They don't quite understand. You know, they're just actually starting to explore their feelings and what things mean, and putting words to an actual feeling or picture. So that association isn't there. But as a parent, if you take a step back and just observe them, you know, it's actually quite interesting how you're able to pick up on things that's important to them. So that's essentially, when we're talking about values, it's like, what is it that motivates you? What is really important to you, that you know, makes you happy and gets those endorphins running? So with kids, for example, watching Freya grow up, anytime we spend together, she is always dancing and laughing and singing and like making funny faces. So those cues, just through observation, you pick up like, okay, fun is definitely a value of yours because you are always trying to have fun or be silly. Another one, for example, safety is a really high one for Freya. Anytime you say that this is hot or this is dangerous, immediately it's okay. I will now create distance around it, and she doesn't test it. So those are just how those are the ways that you can pick up on what's important, is just through their actions, what they say, what they do when you say certain things. But not only through observation, but you also can interact with them about it. So when Freya and I color or paint or do crafts, I usually ask her, like, "Oh, Freya, making crafts is really important to you. You really like this." And your child, when they're old enough to be able to have these conversations with you. So I was able to kind of talk to her when she was about 3. They can easily say yes or no. So with her dancing and making silly faces, like, wow, you are really silly. So as a parent, you're telling the child, like, I'm thinking that this is who you are. You are silly, aren't you? And they will say, yeah, I am. Or, no, I just like to have fun, for example. So you can ask them those questions. You can say, like, this is who you are, or this is what is really important to you, isn't it? And they'll be able to tell you, which is actually really neat.
And has there been a time when you've tested or observed that there's a value that's super at the bottom of the totem pole for, let's say, Freya, because you've had it with her? Like, what's something that is a value that might be important to some people, super important, maybe to you or to Mike, but Freya's just like, I don't care about that.
I mean, an obvious one would be financial stability. I mean, right. They don't have a concept of that, and it's quite funny because when we say, mom and dad can't afford that right now, so we're gonna have to wait. It's that's okay, mom. You can go in my piggy bank, and I'll give you the money for it. Super sweet, but that's a really interesting question because I haven't yet found something of hers that she doesn't jive with our values. Like being so young, as a parent, your goal is to try and mold them and shape them with your own morals and values, right? Mm-hmm. So they kind of take after you. Now, that being said, every child's different, and some of them just have different personalities and end up liking different things. But I think, like even the value of commitment, like my husband and I, we are very, we hold that to a very high degree. So that is one of our values as a parent, is commitment. If you're saying that you're going to do it, you're going to do it, and you're going to follow through with it. And that's going to go well with them in life. Now, being so young, it's, well, I don't want to play soccer today. I don't want to be this person's friend today. Like they just don't understand that concept. So it just might be developmentally, they're not meeting those values yet, or they just don't have that value yet because they just haven't developed to be able to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that example, instead of commitment, the inclination is to choose, like in that example of, I don't want to do soccer today. maybe the inclination is to choose instead of choosing commitment or like that level of like challenge maybe or adventure or socializing. What is she choosing instead? Like comfort, like coziness being in the house, or is it what is it? Or is it downtime? What's she choosing instead of that in that moment?
That's a good question. Just thinking of the scenarios, I think she actually is going for more simplicity or ease, like probably a little bit of comfort, but more so usually when she doesn't want to do soccer or she doesn't want to, like she gives up on writing her letters or whatever, it's because it's hard. Like what she's trying to do is difficult and it's I can't do it kind of attitude. So I won't do it, or I don't want to do it. So I think that's it. It's just, I want to stick to what I know and that I know that I'm good at, and I just don't want that challenge right now.
That's interesting because there's kind of like a competence. No kid would use the word competence, but there's like a competence thing there that we all struggle with, I think, when we're learning something new, right? Like it's hard to feel competent when we're learning something new. And so there's that push pull of like, I like getting better at something, but I don't like feeling like I'm not good at something. And how do you get one without the other?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool to be able to see that, like the little brain cells just like working and building and learning a new thing. And that really tricky thing, which is hard for adults, let alone kids, around if I try hard, it will feel good. Like that is such an important lesson to learn. Like the effort of doing something difficult and succeeding it's hard to know until we do it a few times that it's going to be worth our while.
Yeah, that intrinsic motivation is another thing. Like they're just too young to really understand it, right? So when with Freya, my 4-year-old daughter, I try and say, are you doing this, like a certain task, because it makes you happy? Or are you doing it because you're going to get a sticker, let's just say? And, just by asking those questions, it kind of like you can really start to see those gears going in their heads. Like, I didn't realize that, like, okay, yes, I know that gimme, I'm going to get a sticker, I'm going to get a treat. Like, that's why I'm going to do it. But when you start to add in those emotions, like you're actually benefiting from it because you're now feeling happy. And by doing that kind act, you're now making that other person happy. Now, after doing that for about a year, now that's all that she talks about is, I did this and that made you happy, right? Or because it really made my heart happy. And it's so lovely to see, because just like our own values, it evolves. And, so like that love is really coming out for her. She's always wanting to draw pictures for somebody just because she thinks that they're having a bad day, or, because it would make their heart happy and that makes her heart happy. And, it's very, very neat. And like I had mentioned before, it's an experiment, because all you have to do is ask little probing questions. Try and get to know your child by saying, like, this is what I'm seeing. Is that true? You are really, really kind. You're thinking of other people right now. And sometimes you get, no, I'm doing it because I know I'm going to get this. Okay, that's fair. But then other times you might get different responses that really surprise you. And it's from day one, from their babies. And now I'm talking about my 4-year-old, so of course you can actually have a conversation. But even with Mateus at 9 months, you're still getting to know them. You're getting to know their little personalities and what makes them smile, what makes them happy. You'll have some babies that really don't like loud noises, or, and of course, as they grow, you get to know them, you get to know what they like, what they don't like. And that is the beginning of understanding your child's values and what is important to them, and how their little personalities are going to form based on those values. Just very, very neat.
Very neat. And something I really love, as I'm listening to you, one thing I'm excited about is I feel like I hear or I see examples of times when something that what the parent wants and what the kid wants is completely opposite and at odds. Like the kid is like, I don't want to put on my shoes. And the parent is like, you have to put on your shoes. And they just feel like totally opposite things. But it was really cool when you said, I don't think we've come across a time when our values are completely opposite. And that's the beauty of working with values, right? Is it's not put on your shoes or don't put on your shoes. There's like all this other meat under the surface to work with around, like, maybe it's not put on your shoes or not. Maybe it's like, can we do this in a fun way? Can we do this in a way where we're connecting and playing with each other? Can we do this? Can we build a routine around this so that we both have certainty around what will happen? And then suddenly there's room. There's like so much more room to find common ground than just whenever we go to the door, the putting on the shoes process is a fight. It feels like way more possible.
Yeah, and I love that you use that example. When I was doing coaching with Corrine, she actually had mentioned it. And before I give the example, talking values, it really is a gateway. It really does open the doors to new possibilities. You're just able to negotiate much more clearly, and whether it's with adults or kids. So for example, the put on your boots, right? I value being on time. That is a huge value of mine. Of course, sometimes you get lollygaggers, and so for example, Freya is coloring. It's time to go to daycare in the morning, and I've asked her, let's go, let's get your boots on, let's get your coat on, we gotta go. And it's, just a minute. And so instead of just getting angry and butting heads, it's okay, why is finishing this picture important to you? What is going on? Well, I want to bring it for Lane, which is her friend at school. I want to bring it to my friend because I love her and I want to give her something. Okay, so she just expressed a value, right? Her love value, and it's really important for her to finish up. Okay, well, we do need to go. So how about, and this is where the negotiation starts. How about you pick 2 more colors and you finish your drawing and then we can go? Or what if you took your picture and you can finish it at school? We call daycare school. And you know what? That solves it then and there. So usually I try and get her to put her boots on a little earlier in case of delays, that little planner inside me. So she sometimes has time to be able to finish up her picture. And other times it's, okay, as long as I, my 4-year-old can finish this picture because it's really important I give it to my friend, that's being met. And my need for being on time is being met because it's right after she's done. She's getting her boots on and we're out the door. So it's very important to just have those conversations, try and figure it out. If the sooner you can figure out what is important to your child, the easier it gets to parent and satisfy your needs as well.
Here's one of the things I love about what you just said. I'm thinking about a kid that I get to see. She kind of lives in my neighborhood, and so I get to see her a fair amount. And I noticed something about the way that she communicates that I've seen in a lot of kids. because of the way they are communicated with. I think when I ask her a question, she's either trying to give me the right answer, or she is trying to respond in a way that she thinks will get her to the place that she wants to get to with me, instead of getting curious about herself and answering, in a way that feels true. And I think it has something to do with the fact that when we talk to each other, and this is at any age, we aren't always talking to each other with curiosity about the other person. We can sort of have like an agenda in mind, whether it's like we're in a meeting and we just need to get the thing done, or we're like, hey, let me negotiate with you so that I can get your shoes on and get you in the car. It's like, I just need to get what I need. And kids, I think, can sense that we're not necessarily gonna truly hear what they have to say and change our mind, maybe based on what we've heard. We're just gonna manipulate maybe what they've said to get them in the car and get them on the road. But what you were just describing is taking into account what they've said and showing them that what they've said and what's important to them matters enough that it can change the outcome. Like, how empowering is that? And how encouraging is that for a kid to start to get curious about their own answers and trust that the person that they're speaking to cares and values their opinion really highly enough to change the outcome. That's actually a really respectful thing to do to anybody, including a tiny person.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because during my BBL coaching as well, the one thing that I took out and really hold dear is building self-esteem and self-confidence in your littles is the top priority of a parent. And a lot of the times, and I mean, I'm still guilty of it too, don't get me wrong, there's sometimes where it's do as I say, we need to get this done, and you're definitely not taking into account, your child's feelings at the moment. Or when they're doing great things, you're saying like, wow, you did a great job, and you're giving them all of these words of encouragement. And there's a fine line, because there's a way to do it where you're teaching your child that that they have to appease other people. I'm doing this. Mom says that I did good, so I must do it because mom is saying that I'm good. Or, I did well in this picture because this person likes it. And so they get into this stage of other people have to like what I'm doing. And if not, then I'm getting these negative emotions and I'm not good enough. But so for example, instead of saying, I'm really proud of you all the time, it's just a word play, and you say, you must be really proud of what you just did. I do like it. What do you think? What is your favorite part of, let's say, this picture or whatever it is? And you're getting them, again, to try and get to know themselves and build self-esteem, saying like, yeah, I am proud of what I did. I did great. And you can see it even in adults today. We all struggle with self-esteem and self-confidence. And if we can try and instill that when they're so little and give them that sense of, I am important in our decisions, and not all of them, but when you can, give them a little bit of value in the decision-making process, it really does go a long way. And I found in my personal experience, as soon as I started doing that with Freya, whether it's I need to dance right now, not put my boots on, well, guess what? Did you know that you can dance in your boots? What? And then boots are on and we're dancing to the car. Great. It's a win-win situation. So as long as you are trying to make the effort, and don't get me wrong, it's not as easy, because again, you have so much mental load. You're thinking of, I have to get to work on time. I have to drop them off on time. Did I pack their lunch? Did I make sure to get this and this and this? Like, your mind is going 20 miles a minute as you're trying to have these conversations with them, and trying to make sure that you are taking, that just extra minute to have that little conversation or say that little thing to them. Even saying like, at the end of the day, I've made a routine with Freya saying, thank you for really listening today. That made me really happy, and it really helped me. And it really made you happy because we had a good day and we didn't fight. Right? And so she's correlating her actions to, yes, that she satisfied her parents, but also the fact that she is now getting that intrinsic happiness because she's doing something great. So you're teaching them to not only that they're important, what they have to say is important, but also I'm doing things because it feels good, not to satisfy somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Man, it might be the most complicated job in the world that you get no training for. Just start. Yeah. We're going to deprive you of all your basic needs and then give you the hardest job ever. Go.
Absolutely. Here's this little bean that you have to figure out. And they're all different. And there's no handbook. And not only do you have to take care of them, but you also have a household to take care of. And a lot of moms these days and dads have to go back to work. And now like, my biggest struggle with going back to work and having children is knowing that somebody else is teaching my child, because I worked so hard to create this relationship and to instill these values in my children. And other people have different ways of communicating. They have different values. Other children that they are interacting with interact differently as well. So it opens up even more complications and complexities, simply because you're not just dealing with one little soul, you're dealing with a little soul that is now being influenced by so many different factors, so many different people, society, and you're trying to build that self-confidence and that self-esteem on top of conquering the world. So
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
Wow.
We all seem to do it. People aren't stopping to have kids.
So what's one way that you feel good about that's moving you in the direction of being able to juggle that piece, that big challenge that you mentioned about someone else is going to be teaching my kids and I feel funny about that? What's one way that you're sort of making that work for you, or anticipating that you'll be able to?
To be honest, it's going back to our top values as parents, as well as Freya's top value of connection and love. We deal with things day by day, whether it's learning bad language, or having problems making friends, or kind deeds, whatever it is. It's important to us to be able to sit down, talk about our days, talk about, okay, so you learned a new thing. This is how we feel about it. What do you think? And as long as we maintain that connection, and we while we are loving and kind to one another, that's honestly how we're making it through it. And it seems to be working for us. And And I was just actually telling Allie these last 2 weeks have been amazing. My daughter just turned 4, and it's like as soon as she hits this milestone, something has to be different, right? And she chose to be kind and listen, and like we're living our glory right now, and I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood. But it's been great. We've been able to have these conversations, and we struggle with anxieties and everything like that. But again, we go back to the common values that you share, and doing so in loving and kindness. That's the one thing that's working for us.
Can I say too, like hearing you talk, I wonder if maybe this is just my language, or it seems like it's not only like the connection piece, like love and connection, but also sort of like a faith that those things will get you through future issues, or like a trust or something in like the stability of the family unit or something, being like, not only is the connection and love here, but we also trust that it's gonna be here next month and the month after that and next year. We know that we can lean on that when something.
Absolutely. Yep. Do you agree?
You really agree with that one. Wow. He's just happy to be alive. Say there are parents listening, and they're thinking, okay, I would like to figure out how to incorporate values into my parenting style, but I have no idea how to even begin, and I've never done any value stuff. What would you suggest? How would you suggest they start?
Oh, yeah, that's a really great question. Well, in my personal experience, I relied on my coaching with Corrine. It was phenomenal. Corrine is a mom. She has a lot of experience with values and how to communicate. You know, she has hands-on experience with her daughter, and she's really shined a lot of perspective. And she was the one that actually helped pick some values out of, well, Freya was actually 2 at the time. So if you're able to and you're willing to do some coaching, that is one thing that I really, really recommend. And if not, the one thing that I would recommend is do the experiment with your kids. Just observe them. Try and point out some things that you think are important to them and ask them if it's true, or even try and pick out something that they are, like, wow, you are such a kind person, and that just gets them, that adds to their self-confidence and that self-awareness of, yeah, I'm really kind. Just observe, like, what is the commonality, what is the common pattern, like what is important to them, or what are they specifically doing that could potentially relate to, right? And then you work with it. Use what is important to them to negotiate and satisfy your values as a parent, and you'll really notice that.
I love it. And I'd love to do this again, Christina, like in a few months after you've been back at work for a bit and like there's been new successes and new challenges, and just do like a check. That would be fun.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. And we got Mateus for the entire time.
Yeah.
And he's just happy.
You did great.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to edit that giggle into, that's going to make it into the podcast for sure.
That's great.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, thanks for being on the hot seat, Christina. I appreciate you opening the door a little bit and sharing a bit about how it's been for you the last few years, actually.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming up with this topic. It's great. I can talk for days about this stuff. I love it. So
Good. Yeah. Parenting is life.